Welcome to this explainer. Let's skip the fluff and get you perfectly prepped to absolutely smash your PPL ground exam. Today, we're taking that invisible, three-dimensional map of the sky and translating it into simple, memorable facts. I mean, unfortunately, there are no road signs painted on the clouds at 5,000 feet, yet. Our goal is to make sure you know exactly which mental drawer to open on test day so you can answer these airspace questions with total confidence.
Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1, Flight Information Regions.
So, to start at the absolute macro level, before we get into the weeds of specific zones, we really need to understand the fundamental division of airspace. Basically, the UK's airspace is split into two massive chunks governed by air traffic control centres. We've got the London FIR down in the south and the Scottish FIR up in the north. You can kind of think of these as the two grand states of the UK sky. Within these regions, the classification of the airspace dictates exactly what services you get and what flight rules are actually allowed. Now here's a crucial detail for your exam, so definitely memorize this exact coordinate, 55 degrees north. That is the invisible dividing line sitting right between the London and Scottish regions. If a question pops up asking where London ends and Scotland begins up in the sky, 55 degrees north is your golden answer.
So, how high do these standard FIRs actually go? Well, they start from the surface and extend all the way up to 19,500 feet. In aviation terms, that's flight level 195. Above FL 195, the airspace transitions into Upper Information Regions, or UIRs. The London and Scottish UIRs keep going way up into the stratosphere, topping out at FL 660. But honestly, for your PPL, most of your focus is going to be firmly kept below FL 195. Moving right along to Section 2, Controlled Airspace Rules.
Now that we've got the big picture, let's zoom in and categorize these specific airspace classes. You can think of controlled airspace as the strict parents of the sky. This covers classes A through E. We'll start at the very top tier, Class A. It holds the highest status and is allocated to the busiest airspace. It is strictly for instrument flight rules, meaning IFR only. It absolutely requires full air traffic control clearance before entry, and ATC takes on the responsibility to separate all aircraft. So the takeaway here, if you're flying VFR, which as a PPL student you will be, don't even look at Class A, unless you really want ATC giving you a phone number to copy down to call the authorities.
Next up on the list is Class B airspace. Now, internationally, it allows both IFR and VFR and requires clearance. But here's a little trick for your UK ground exam. Class B airspace in the UK is kind of like a pilot who doesn't talk about flying at a dinner party. It simply doesn't exist. The UK just does not allocate any airspace to Class B. Super easy point to remember.
Okay, let's move on to Class C. In the UK, this one is only used at high levels, specifically above FL 195. It allows both IFR and VFR, and you must get ATC clearance before entering. The major difference to note here is exactly how ATC handles separation. They'll separate IFR flights from everyone else. But if you're flying VFR, ATC is only going to pass traffic information to you regarding other VFR traffic. You are entirely responsible for your own separation from them.
Dropping down to Class D, the restrictions loosen up just a little bit more. Make no mistake, though, you still absolutely need ATC clearance before entry. However, in Class D, ATC only provides separation between IFR and IFR flights. For VFR flights, they're simply passing along traffic information regarding IFR and other VFR traffic. Sure, they'll give you traffic avoidance advice if you request it, but the primary responsibility for seeing and avoiding rests completely on your shoulders.
Then we have Class E, which is the most relaxed of the controlled spaces, brilliantly showing how this whole tier system actually works. While IFR flights still have to obtain clearance to enter, VFR flights actually do not require clearance at all. You can literally just fly right in if you're VFR. ATC separates IFR from IFR, and they'll pass traffic info as far as practical. But for VFR, it's very hands-off. All right, Section 3, Uncontrolled Airspace Breakdown. So those were the strict parents. Now I want to welcome you to the wild west of the sky, Uncontrolled Airspace. In Class F, participating IFR flights get separation from ATC as far as possible. But Class G is completely uncontrolled, and honestly, it's exactly where you're going to spend the vast majority of your time as a new private pilot. Both IFR and VFR are allowed, there are zero requirements for clearance, and absolutely no ATC separation services provided whatsoever. It's entirely up to you to keep those eyes outside the cockpit, for once, and maintain your own separation. And that brings us to Section 4, Zones, Areas, and Airways.
Let's take a look at the actual physical shapes and structures of these airspaces, because this is a classic trap on your navigation exams. A control zone, or CTR, is established around the busier airports and extends from the ground up to a specified altitude. Just think, zone equals 0 feet. On the flip side, a control area, or CTA, hovers above the ground. It extends upwards from a specified altitude or flight level all the way to an upper limit. So remember, zones start at the dirt, areas float in the air.
Now, building right on that concept of a control area, we have airways. By definition, an airway is simply a control area, which means it doesn't start at the ground, that's established in the form of a corridor joining two radio beacons in a straight line. Basically, they're just invisible highways in the sky connecting major navigational points. And exactly how wide is this invisible highway? Burn this specific number right into your brain for the exam. Airways are exactly 10 nautical miles wide. That's 5 nautical miles on either side of the center line connecting those two beacons. So what class of airspace is an airway? Well, in the UK, airways are by default Class A airspace. That means strictly no VFR allowed. But there is a really key exception you absolutely need to know. When an airway passes through a control zone or a control area of a lower class, it's going to temporarily adopt the class of the airspace it's crossing. It automatically downgrades to perfectly match that lower class airspace, so the rules stay completely consistent in that specific area. Lastly, we have the Terminal Control Area, or TCA. You'll very often hear seasoned pilots or your instructors refer to this by its old name, the Terminal Maneuvering Area, or TMA. This is simply a huge control area set up at the confluence or intersection of multiple airways near one or more major busy airports. It's essentially this massive junction box in the sky where all the airway traffic merges to descend toward the runways. And there you have it, the invisible sky completely decoded and ready for your PPL exam. If this explainer helped clear up the clouds for you, please hit that like button, subscribe for more aviation explainers, and go safely crush that ground exam. But before you go, the next time you look up at a perfectly empty blue sky, ask yourself, what invisible boundaries are right above my head? Clear skies, everyone, and happy studying.